Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council. Mayor Teresa Tomlinson. City Manager Isaiah Hughley. Pop Barnes, District 1.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. We have to still make some adjustments on our opening to reflect some of the new changes in our council, and we're going to see if we can't get that done for our next meeting. But in the meantime, want to welcome you to our June 14th meeting of the Columbus City Council. We're so glad to have you here, whether you're in the audience, watching on CCG TV, or live streaming at columbusga.org. We have a full agenda, as we do every time we come together, but we want to make sure we get off on the right foot. So we're going to call forward Reverend Richard Yancey with New Bethel AME Church here to the podium to bring our invocation consistent with his faith tradition. Good morning.
Good morning. Let us pray. Oh God, our God, how excellent is your name in all the earth. We come to give you thanks and praise for this day. Invoke your presence in this place. Touch every heart here assembled, that we do honor to your name. This we ask in the name of your Son, Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. Reverend Yancey, thank you so very much for all you do and all those at New Bethel do for this community. Next, we want to call forward the Columbus Martial Arts Academy Summer Camp and ask them to come right here in front of the clerk's desk. We have a microphone for you if you'd assemble. And as soon as they come forward, I'll ask the rest of you all to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, sir! I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We weren't awake when we walked in. We are now. That was awesome. Usually I just ask you to say your name and how old you are, but tell us about your belt and what that means. Can you do that for us? Yes, what's your name?
Javante.
And how old are you?
I'm 8.
And what kind of belt is that?
A yellow double black.
All right, good. Maybe your instructors can tell us what all that means. Yes, ma'am, you want to go next with your name and your, just pass the mic and give us your name and your age. Yes.
My name is Lily and I'm 8.
Great.
My name is Caden and I'm 7 and I have a yellow black belt.
All right.
My name is Mariela and I'm 7. My name is Jackson and I'm 8 and I have a yellow double white belt.
My name is Christian and I'm 11 and I have an orange belt.
My name is Anthony and I'm 11 years old and I have a yellow solid belt.
My name is Coach Mike. I'm 26 and I have a purple belt.
My name is Dakota. I am 13 and I have a gray-white belt.
My name is Ty and I have a green-white belt.
My name is Brett and I'm 14 and I have a gray-black belt.
My name is Camden and I'm 12 and I have a yellow-white belt.
My name is McCory and I'm 10 and I have a green solid belt.
My name is Jaden and I'm 11 years old and I have a solid green belt.
All right. Coach Mike, tell us what the different belts mean.
Absolutely. So in our program, we have a number of belts, and every belt represents a different set of technique that a student learns throughout their curriculum, throughout their time with our academy. So of course, we all start off at our white belt, and then we work our way up through the single white, the double white, the single black, and the double black belt. So we go all the way from white belt to our junior black belt, to where it transitions into our adult program belt system once these students turn 15 or 16 years of age.
Wow, great. And I know you have someone else here with you. You want to introduce him quick for us?
Yes, sir. This is our head instructor, Coach Simon Chang. He's
Hi, Coach.
Columbus Martial Arts Academy. But just to throw some light out there, our highest belts, our most technical students are females. Sorry, guys. But there are females.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you for coming today and helping to kick off our council meeting. Let's give them a big round of applause. All right, we are, as you all know, we're concluding our budget session and time in the community in order to conclude this fiscal year by June 30th and begin the next fiscal year by July 1. And we are required by law to have a taxpayer Bill of Rights public hearing, and I'm going to turn it over to the city attorney at this time for that.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Again, this is our third and final hearing. They call it Taxpayer Bill of Rights under Georgia law known as OCGA 48-5-32.1. This is required because the tax digest, the value of all the property in Muskogee County, is projected to increase over the previous year. If there's anybody in the audience that has questions, this is a public hearing. Got our budget experts here. If anybody wants to comment, this is the final hearing. All right. Mayor, I don't see any hands, so that concludes the hearing required by Georgia law.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. We have a special proclamation. As you all know, we normally have a proclamation session, but usually this time of year, the school year runs out, people start heading in opposite directions to take a little break, and so we're going to make a special exception for this very important proclamation read by Councilor Thomas. We're going to ask Mr. Stefan Lawrence to come forward, our Muskogee County School District Teacher of the Year. And Marquette, if you'd like to come forward as Representative Meef, we invite you as well. Councilor Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor. It's with a great deal of pleasure that I read this proclamation into the record today. Stefan Lawrence is an instructor at Carver High School, and I'll give you a little bit more of his background in the proclamation. But Stefan is a Columbus kid. He went to Reese Road School. Miss Pendleton tells me all the time that she's responsible for your success. He went to Hardaway for a couple of years and then graduated from Northside, went on to Columbus College at the time, Columbus State, and played basketball. And his classroom at Carver, one of the really good things about being on the selection committee is that we get to go and observe in classrooms. And if you want just a treat, go over to Carver High School and ask them if you can observe in Mr. Lawrence's class. It was a tremendous class, and the kinds of things that he was doing with those kids was just outstanding. So, Stefan, it's with a great deal of pleasure that I read the proclamation today. Whereas each year the Muskogee Educational Excellence Foundation selects the Muskogee County School District Teacher of the Year from among the 56 classroom teachers nominated by the staff at each school in the district. And whereas the 2016 Teacher of the Year for Muskogee County is Stefan Lawrence, an English and advanced placement teacher at G.W. Carver High School since 2010. And whereas Mr. Lawrence holds a Bachelor of Arts in English Secondary Education from Columbus State University, a Master of Education in English and Secondary Education, also awarded by Columbus State University, and is currently working on his Doctorate of Education in Educational Leadership and Administration from the University of Georgia. And whereas Mr. Lawrence holds a Georgia Educator Certificate T5 English Secondary, and whereas when selected, Mr. Lawrence recognized 3 specific educators from Columbus State University that were role models for him and helped infuse him with the passion he has for teaching. The late Herb Green, the late Jim Brubaker, and Roger Hatcher, former principal of Hardaway High School, who, Lawrence noted in his application, told him that teaching is the best and the toughest job you will ever have. And whereas Mr. Lawrence is constantly exhorting his students to delve deeper into the material, examine the story, use their minds to think and reflect, and to be smart in all of their choices. And whereas Mr. Lawrence noted in his interview that he demands respect from his students, not only for himself, but respect for themselves as well. He says kids can easily see whether you are genuine or not, and I take being a role model for them as a huge responsibility. Teaching is God's work. Now, therefore, Teresa Pike Tomlinson, Mayor of Columbus, Georgia, does hereby proclaim June the 14th, 2016, Stephon Lawrence Day. Congratulations, Stephon.
Mr. Lawrence, please, if you would, say a few words.
Wow. That's, thank you for that, Ms. Thomas, and the City Council. I'm extremely blessed and honored to be in front of you guys today. I'd like to thank the MEAF Selection Committee for bestowing this award upon me. There's a lot of teachers that could have received this award. My platform for this year is community, focusing on the last 5 letters, making sure that we communicate with each other and that we're a unified city and school district. The school district does not thrive without the help of the city and the important decisions made in this room. And what I want to do in my time is to bring all elements of the community of Columbus and try to infuse as much as possible into the Muskogee County School District. Our superintendent, Dr. David Lewis, is a communitarian at heart, and he believes in this wholeheartedly, and we have some exciting things me and him are discussing constantly about it, and I can't wait to get the next school year underway, and this has been an exciting ride, and I promise I will not embarrass the committee or the district or the city or my mother. So, but that's it. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much, and let's give him another round of applause. We want to recognize MEAF as well. Councilor Thomas is on that board, as well as Marquette McKnight. It's wonderful. Thank you for being that little extra something that allows our community to honor our teachers and give them extra training. Sometimes they go to the Harvard.
We have actually 13, a record 13 teachers this year going to Harvard Graduate School this summer, who will represent the Muskogee Educational Excellence Foundation and MCSD, which brings us to a total of about 25 teachers that we've sent to Harvard for graduate school, bringing an unprecedented $1.2 million just in recognizing and rewarding teachers in the Muskogee County School District through MEAF's 20-year history. And I thank you and our former board member, Mayor Pro Tem Ellen Turner, who was a great board member in the very beginning, early days of MEAF, and we appreciate the city's support and continuing to support great teachers.
And none of that could be done if it wasn't for MEAF.
That's exactly
the budget of the Muskogee County School District certainly just could not allow for that very special training and all of that resource that comes into Columbus then. And so thank you. And Mr. Lawrence, thank you again for all you do. I tell you, I love reading that you're teaching kids to think. I went to a large gathering, and they said, what's the #1 thing you see in young people that you wish they had more of? And everybody said, oh, science and math, and it's sort of the typical answers people give today, more STEM type stuff, which is great, and that's wonderful. But how about deductive reasoning and logic and thinking, and writing and communicating? And so thank you, thank you, thank you. They'll use it for a lifetime. Let's give them another round of applause. Come around, let's give you this proclamation. We're so fortunate to have you. Thank you. All right, well, we're going to jump into our regular business agenda at this time and call forward John Redmond, our internal auditor. He has completed a transition audit of the finance department, which is standard practice in this government whenever there's a change in leadership. And so, John, we look forward to your report. Good morning.
Well, actually, today I'm just here to ask permission to do the audit, the transition audit of the finance department.
Getting ahead of myself. Well, thank you.
I'd like to go ahead and give you the report, and I'm sure it's going to be a good one, but you know, I can read minds. I don't think I can do that. But as you all know, it's good morning to each of you, and happy Flag Day. I would like to, this time, request permission. We've had a request from management to perform a transition audit of the finance department. This is customary when we have a change in leadership at a department or an executive or elected official level in the government.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor, please state aye. All right. All right. Thank you, John, very, very much. And as we move on from the mayor's agenda, I just want to take this opportunity, and particularly with Reverend Yancey still here, because if there's ever a time in this country we needed faith, it's now. And we want to recognize our brothers and sisters in Orlando with the tragedy that they're going through. And in fact, tonight in Columbus at 7 o'clock, there will be a vigil in front of the Government Center on 10th Street, right there in front of the Springer. And so we hope that you all will come out and join in that vigil. Let's show we're one community, that we're one humanity. Love will conquer hate. If there's anything you're going to hate, let it be hate. And let's concentrate on those things that bring us together and not tear us apart. So again, our thoughts and prayers go out to the city of Orlando, and we are sending formal, of course, condolences to the mayor as well of Orlando. Mayor Pro Tem.
And I would like to also say congratulations to you and Judy Tucker for the service Sunday. It was wonderful.
We had a prayer rally, and Mayor Pro Tem, Councilor Baker, and many others in the community were able to be there. Of course, we did not plan the prayer rally knowing anything about the horror we would wake up to on Sunday morning having occurred in Orlando. It's something we do once a year to concentrate on the multifaceted effort we have in this community to deter people from violence and steer them towards love, not just through enforcement, not just through crime prevention or violence prevention, but also just through a spiritual wholeness. And so whatever path it is that you're on related to your spirituality or faith, we welcomed all to the prayer vigil, and it was something else. It was really, really moving. So thank you for that, and of course commend Judy Tucker in the mayor's office who pulls that together every year. All right. Well, again, thank you all. Hope to see you this evening. And we want to turn it over now to our city attorney, Clifton Fay, for his agenda.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. We do have a few zoning items to vote on before we get to the annual budget items. The first zoning item up, 7808 Whitesville Road, 1419 Double Churches, is ready for adoption.
Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, it is, it's queued for electronic voting. And it passes.
All right, thank you. Next item is 2285, 2300, 2312 Whittlesey Road. It's ready for adoption.
Got a motion and a second for approval. Is there any discussion related to this item? Seeing none, it is queued for electronic voting. And it passes.
That passes. Thank you, Mr. Mize, for being here. Next item is a text amendment to the UDO for convalescent nursing facilities. It's ready for adoption.
Got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion related to this item? Seeing none, it's queued for electronic voting. It passes.
All right. Next item up is the operating budget for FY17. This is still $270,013,787 for the general fund, but the entire ordinance is ready for adoption.
Got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion on this item? All right, it is queued for electronic voting.
All right.
And it passes.
That has passed. Next item is the non-operating funds, and they are ready for adoption.
Motion and second for approval. Seeing that there's no discussion, it is queued for voting. And it passes.
All right. And then, Mayor, if it's okay, I'll call 6, 7, 8, and 9 again together. General government pension, public safety pension plan, disability income plan, and death benefit plan. They're ready for adoption.
Okay, that's a motion and second on items 6, 7, 8, and 9, all related to our pension plan, public safety, general government, major disability income plan, and death benefit escrow plan. We have a motion and second. No one is queued for discussion. You may record your votes electronically. And it passes.
Okay, all of those pass. Next item, number 10 on my agenda, is the overtime parking fines going to $40. It's ready for adoption.
We have a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion related to this item? Seeing none, it's queued for voting. The item passes.
Okay, that passes. It'll be effective July 1. Next item is the solid waste collection, updating the poverty guidelines and the residential rate increasing. It is ready for adoption.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion related to this item? Seeing none, you may record your votes electronically. And the item passes.
All right, number 12 is the update, increase to various cemetery fees. It's ready for adoption.
We have a we have a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion related to this item? There being no discussion, the item is queued for voting. And it passes.
Right. That passes.
I just want to
Thank
say, Mr. City Attorney, I want to thank, of course, the staff and this council for their tremendous, tremendous work on our budget. So thank you all very much. The community has a lot to be proud of.
All right. Then item 13 is the first reading of our annual millage ordinance. Urban Service District 1 has a 9 mil cap for ordinary expenses, but total millage is 17.88, and the others are listed in the chart in the ordinance. Are there any questions around the table on that? We've got our millage experts here.
Doesn't appear to be any questions at this time.
All right, we'll vote on that next week at the 5:30 p.m. meeting. Item 14 is the millage rate for the Muskogee County School District, tentatively set at 23.37 mils. We should know the final outcome of their budget adoption by next week's meeting. But any questions on that?
None at this time.
All right. And then our item 15 is an update on the fees for the Department of Engineering, permits, work on public right-of-way, et cetera. I don't believe these have been updated in quite some time. So, any questions around the table?
Not at this time.
All right, we'll bring that back for a vote next week. And finally, we have a resolution for special exception use requested at 3688 3522 Veterans Parkway for auto truck sales, new and used, less than 2 acres. Mr. Kofer here. All right, anybody in the audience want to comment on this matter? Okay, any questions from council? All right, it is ready for adoption. Special exception use.
Got a motion and a second for approval. Counselor Woodson. Okay. There being no discussion, it is queued for electronic voting.
All right.
All right,
Looks
and
like
it does pass.
That has passed, and that's all we have listed, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll move now into our public agenda. We want to invite Shamika Averett forward. I don't see her here this morning. She wanted to speak to us on the Area Agency on Aging Summerfest, so we're going to make sure we get her back in, and so we can get that information out to the community. If she should show up before we conclude, we'll have the opportunity to hear her. And next we have Ms. Laura Hall, who's representing Estella's Brilliant Bus, the Brilliant Minds Tech Innovation Bus Tour. Is Ms. Hall here today? Good morning. Good, good. If you would just state your name and give us your address, and then tell us a little bit about Estella's Brilliant Bus.
Yes, so my name is Laura Hall, and I live on Milton Road. I'm from Columbus, Georgia, and this is Miss Randallette, and I'm going to let her lead the conversation on Estella's Brilliant Bus, if that's okay.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. As Ms. Hall stated, my name is Randallette Williams. I'm a part of the planning committee that is bringing Estella's Brilliant Minds Tech Bus Tour to Columbus, Georgia. If you are not familiar with Miss Estella, she is a 79-year-old, 50-year retired educator out of Florida who has taken retirement funds of hers and created a STEM-related bus that she takes on tours throughout the country. This year, we have been privileged to have Ms. Estella join us here in Columbus, Georgia on July 16th and 17th. We are very excited that she has chosen to visit Columbus, Georgia, and to bring her bus to our city. We have a multitude of activities planned on Saturday starting at 11 a.m., Carver High School. And to make it even more exciting, we are involving our very own Muskogee County School District students on this trip. So if the question in anyone's mind is, well, what will she be doing for our city? She will actually be taking 10 of our students, actually 20, if we include our Phoenix City school system, on the tour, which will take the route through Alabama, back up to Atlanta and back down to Orlando. And as the children are traveling, they will be learning coding techniques, they will be learning entrepreneurship skills, robotics, and so it's a very exciting opportunity for our local students to take part in and be able to come back and share with their counterparts all of the information that they've learned. In addition to that, she will be blessing us with opportunities to have free licenses for software that we can use here in our school system, as well as private entities. So we are here today to not only share this information with you, but to invite any of the council members who might be available to join us on July 16th for the kickoff.
Great, wonderful. Well, thank you, and give us one more time, place and time.
July 16th, 11 a.m., Carver High School is where we will kick off the event, hold multitude of events and activities that day. We have a number of community organizations who will also be there to engage the kids in activities. We'll be taking a tour of Columbus State University with the students, and I did not add that it will be about 100 students total taking this trip. And again, we're just very excited that Ms. Estella has decided to make Columbus one of her stops, and we hope that she will return year after year.
Wonderful. Councilor Woodson.
Thank you very much. It sounds very interesting. How are the children chosen? How are the 20 children from the Tri-City chosen to attend it?
Yes, very good question. Mrs. Stella targets children who may not have the opportunity to take a trip such as this and who may not have technology at home. So we targeted East Columbus Middle School as well as Eddy Middle School. And we have asked that they solicit the parents and see if they have any students who are interested. And in fact, they do. I'll be having a parent meeting with them tomorrow to further discuss the trip.
Oh, so it's just going into the school, asking who's interested, interviewing them, and see if they're the right fit for the program, and that's how they
Correct,
get in.
correct.
There's
As
not a cost to the family?
We are securing sponsorships to cover any fees, so there will be no cost to the families.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your efforts in bringing this to Columbus. You make us proud. So, thank you. We look forward to seeing you on the 16th. Next, we have Ms. Carolyn Butts, who would like to come forward. Is Ms. Butts here today? All right. I don't see Ms. Butts, but if she should want to come back, we can put her on the next public agenda. And then we have Ms. Audrey Pallamore, who would like to speak to us about seeking legal advice. Ms. Pallamore, you'd like to come forward? Uh-oh. And Ms. Pallamore, I know we've spoken to you. As you know that
Good morning.
Council can't give you legal advice. You know that. We're going to refer you to Georgia Legal Services for that. But you will have the same amount of time as all citizens have to address council.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Audrey Holston Palmore. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hugo. I am Audrey Holston Palmore. I reside here in Columbus, Georgia. And I'm here Thank you. I'm here because I was told on Friday, I think it was the 10th of this month, June, that I could appear on public agenda. I went through the application process. I passed in my application. That was Friday before 12 noon. On Sunday, I believe it was the 12th, in the Columbus Ledger-Inquirer, it recorded my name, the Inquirer recorded my name as being a part of the public agenda. So I prepared myself to be a part of the public agenda based on the information I passed in on Friday. At this time, I would appreciate if the proper person who called me from city government on yesterday, which was Monday, I think it was the 13th, I would appreciate if that person would come forward and tell me what was told to me about appearing here on the public agenda at this time. Do I have 2 minutes and 47 seconds?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to take a minute of that time.
Okay.
For that person, excuse
No,
me?
that's not the way it works.
Now
You can make us.
now you're going to intervene on my time.
Yeah,
Okay,
you can
go.
you can continue your statement.
At this time, I would appreciate if the person who represented the city government on yesterday would come forward and stand next to me and tell me what they told me on the phone about me being here where I could be somewhere else, you understand? Where I need to be is what I'm here for, and that is to meet with a person who is operating a business here in this city And I wanted to address the city attorney about getting in touch with him to let him know that I still want to meet with him. But we'll get back to my main concern this morning with my 1 minute and 33 seconds left. With a person who called my house. Excuse the podium for just a minute. On my cell phone, my little flip phone, my children think it's the funniest thing, but it communicates, and I was able to communicate with a person that said they were representing the Columbus city government and that I should not come because the city attorney, as the elected mayor said, the city attorney told me a lot of things, but it was like an effort to discourage me from showing up. Now, I heard her say that we hope that that person comes back, the people that have been ahead of me. I've taken up my time to let you know that I will be back. But that person should have come up here if they had any type of integrity. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Palmore. All right, that concludes our public agenda, and we'll move on into the city manager's agenda at this time. Excuse me, Mr. City Manager.
Now here.
Oh, hello. All right, we're going to call forward Ms. Shamika Averett, who is with the areas, let me get back, because I want to say it right, the Area Agency on Aging. Shamika, good to see you, and ask you to come forward and give us some good information about Summerfest.
The Salt Summerfest, I'm going to be really quick. I forgot my flyers.
Okay.
But it's Seniors and Law Enforcement together. We have it every year. This is our 10th year having the Salt Summerfest. And what it is an, basically it's a big fair for all of our local seniors here in our community, in our surrounding counties that can come participate. We have entertainment, food, a band, we'll have hula dancers, just great opportunity to honor our seniors. We do it every year. But this being our 10th year, we are definitely trying to make it bigger and better as we proceed with next year's, future years coming up. So it is July 13th, and like I said, I forgot my flyers, but it's July 13th from 9 a.m. until 12 at the Columbus Civic Center. So we'll have some law enforcement there, and we'll have about 30 vendors. We'll have entertainment for them, food, beverages, just a great time for them. So I want to let you guys know about that and to spread the word for me. I have most of you all's email, get off the website, and I can send you guys a flyer if you'd like to share that.
And one more time, give us the place and the time, because I know that Councilor Woodson's very good at the hula dancing, so I know she wants to be.
We'd love to have you. July 13th, I think that's a Wednesday, July 13th, from 9 a.m. until 12. And we have the Columbus Housing Authority bringing out all of their seniors, and some of our senior centers are coming, and for the Parks and Rec, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Since it's a state agency, you may want to get with the city manager and see if we can publish that on our city our city television.
That will work. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so very much. We appreciate all you do for this community. And at this time, we'll turn it over to the city manager, Mr. Hughley, for his agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First on my agenda, I've got a sidewalk variance request. It's at 6596 Willacy Boulevard to allow sidewalk construction to be delayed until development of the sidewalks along the properties adjoining Medical Realty Group North LLC. That is a newly constructed business there. Of course, we bring you these from time to time as we are attempting to create a sidewalk grid network throughout this community. On all of our transportation projects, we do or require sidewalks, and so staff is always reluctant to support these, but in order to get a variance, it requires your approval. And so we bring this before you today, and you've done it on a number of others. But at some future date, we will revisit this Medical Realty Group North when the sidewalk network starts to come together, if you allow the variance. And at that time, we would be calling on them to install sidewalks consistent with what we would require today if we did not give them this variance. And so we're asking for your consideration.
We have several questions. Let me clear up just so that they understand. So when it comes back and the staff feels it's appropriate to bring back before council, there's no exception for hardship at that time, even if it's more expensive than it would have been had they done it originally?
That's correct.
Okay.
And this is simply a delay in doing so until the sidewalk network starts to come together, and there's been a number of others. We don't necessarily recommend it, but we know that others have been done, and so we bring this for your consideration today.
Okay. Councilor Huff.
Yes, just wanted to clarify that it'll be delayed until the entire area is ready to extend.
Well, I
mean, on
would
that
not
side of the
say,
street.
I would not say the entire area, but when we start to bring together the sidewalk network, if you want to go,
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
then we are going to call on any of those that you've allowed a variance where it was delayed.
Yeah.
And what we would be requiring today as part of that construction project, we're going to be calling on them to fulfill the requirement and obligation, and that delay would no longer be available at that time.
So once the network starts, then everyone on that side of the street, the sidewalk network will be connected.
You want to speak to that?
Yes. Yes, sir, that's the plan as that property, that undeveloped property continues to develop, or as the staff sees a pattern. A lot of times, we look at areas where there's a heavy foot traffic and there's a worn trail, and the city will pick up those to connect sections. And this is an area where there's sidewalk on the north side. There's sidewalk for about half of that road already. We added sidewalk as part of the Moon Road project, so that is the only gap that would help create that network. There is a lot of pedestrian activity in this general area. You can, almost any time you go out there, you'll see somebody on the sidewalk somewhere in that area.
Okay, so, excuse me, the request was just for delay until we get to that point, so they wouldn't have to worry about spending the money at this particular time or tearing up the particular, I guess some development is going on
Yes,
that
sir,
side.
it's under construction.
Yeah,
The
so
development
they
is
just
under
want to
construction.
basically plant grass until a later date?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We have Councilor Henderson.
This is really, I guess, a question for the city attorney, and I know I've asked it before. I really can't remember what we decided, but one of my primary concerns, I don't really like delaying it. I understand it could mess up the stuff that they construct, but I worry if the property changes hands, that the new owner might not be advised at the time of transfer that they are basically on the hook for sidewalk construction. I don't remember what we talked about. Is there any way to put something on to run with the deed or something so that if there's a transference that at least they'll be made aware? Because it's going to be more expensive. It'd be less expensive to do it now during the construction phase. So whoever ends up constructing this thing, I just want to make sure that, forewarned is forearmed. So I want to make sure that we're not sneaking up on them.
Mr. City Attorney, did you have any?
Well, normally, any developer that comes in and looks at any piece of property has got to check the zoning, and this will be on file as a continuous alert
No, and I
to this
get that.
piece of property, but there's nothing we routinely would require filing at Superior Court.
And I don't know that I'm as concerned about a raw piece of land that they have to provide a site plan and a development proposal, but I'm talking about just the transferring of a deed of an already constructed property with grass up to the curb line, how are they going to know that they could be responsible or they will be responsible for at some point for the construction?
Well, hopefully they'll do a thorough title check as well as a zoning check, but every variance that this council does on a weekly basis, we don't require things be filed in Superior Court.
So would the variance be, would it be a lien? Would it be part of the title check?
Well, it'll be part of the restrictions on that piece of property in the zoning office.
So a title search should pull it up?
Just like a title
No.
search might not, but they need to check with planning. Any developer or construction outfit should check and normally do.
It normally do?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. All right, we have Counselor Woodson.
When the, just out of curiosity, when the sidewalks are constructed, I'm not sure what the correct terminology is it going to have where it's higher off the ground? I'm not sure what the terminology is. The curved sides, are they going to be curved sides, or are they going to be just flat on the ground like we started when we were doing the schools?
The street, I'm sorry, Whittlesey is curb and gutter already.
Okay, so you're just adding to that. All right, thank you. And I just say that because I'm hoping that as we develop sidewalks from now on, we will make sure they're curb and gutter.
We're going to come back and talk about that. That becomes a different project when you add curb and gutter.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it. Look forward to that conversation.
And you know, and I've had conversation with staff, and I just say to you that, I mean, we would love to not approve any of these variances because you got to start somewhere. And when different ones put sidewalks in as part of their approved plans, and when they submitted plans and the plans were approved by our staff, they had sidewalks in them, obviously. And so it's there in their plans. And so we'd love to not allow any variances, and then so, of course, you would have sidewalks temporarily to nowhere, but eventually they're going to connect, and then we wouldn't have to go back and chase down businesses or have alerts to try and identify exchange of property and all of that, and eventually it'll come together. But we've had some people come forward to this council, and they've made some cases, and it was understandable that it would be the first and only sidewalk out there, and it goes nowhere. And so we did extend some variances, and that's why we continue to bring them back when we have similar situations. But at some point, we may make a hard decision that we're not going to allow for any more variances or delays because we got to get this done somehow, in some way, and it'll eventually come together.
Yeah, the two sort of interesting comments, when you do come back, I think it would be good to show a particular area where there's been a lot of variances requested, and had those variances not been granted, would it be a sidewalk to somewhere? You know, because the first one's always a sidewalk to nowhere, but when the neighbor comes in, and the neighbor comes in, and the neighbor comes in, then it's a sidewalk to somewhere at that point. And so I think it'd be interesting just to see the impact of variances not granted. And then the other thing I hope that you have conversations with the citizens about when they come forward and ask for the variances is it is inevitably cheaper to do it while they are having construction on their property. And they're grading, and they have that equipment out there coming back when they already have hardtop, and it's just, you know, and then we're going to hear about, oh, how expensive it is.
Yeah, we do have that conversation.
Okay. All right. Councilor Henderson, did I cut you off? Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Woodson, and let's see, Councilor Thomas.
This is not the first time this particular piece of property has come before us. If I recall, there was some discussion that we had a couple of months ago about this property. Am I remembering that property correctly, Donna?
Yes, ma'am. He came, Mr. Holloway came forth on the public agenda.
And one of the issues that that the company had at that time was how the sidewalk, if a sidewalk was put into there, there's a bridge is probably not the correct terminology, but there's some problems there with ease and access and all of those kinds of things. So this is not the first time we've seen this particular piece of property. One of my questions is, has there been a conversation with the Medical Realty Group North saying to them, if council approves this variance and something happens in the future, this is what's going to happen? Has that conversation been had with them? Are they fully aware of the kinds of things that we've been talking about so far this morning?
Yes, ma'am, and they've been coordinated with in the development of the agreement. for
And
the
so,
delay.
and so knowing that, they have still come to us and said, we would like to have this variance.
Yes, ma'am.
And as both the city manager and Councilor Henderson said, we've done this in other cases. I'm thinking the one that comes immediately to my mind is the veterinary hospital up on Whitesville and Williams Road, that corner there. We gave that company a variance, and there's no sidewalk there. So I guess my point is that the Medical Realty Group North is going into this fully aware of the consequences. And that if we do this, if we grant this variance at this time, it may come back to them at a later date and require that they put in this sidewalk. And it's still their request that we grant them the variance.
Yes, ma'am.
Then if
Mr.
it's-
Holloway is in the audience today. so.
Okay. I trust that you, when you tell me you've had this conversation, that you've had it. I understand that completely, Don.
Yes, ma'am. We've had several emails
Yeah.
going back and forth between Mr. Holloway, myself, and Jacob Bill, who was assisting us with developing the agreement.
Okay. Then if it's appropriate, Mayor, I move that we approve the request.
It's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll cue it for electronic voting. It's the north, oh my goodness. The green for yes and red for no? Okay. All right, and it is, and it does pass. All right.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Next, I've got a Department of Driver Services Memorandum of Understanding. The Georgia Department of Driver Services contacted us, and they are requesting to use the city's paving contract to pave and restripe the parking lot and test courses at the driver's license building out on 80 in Midland. And in order to move forward with that, we need to do a memorandum of understanding. It's at no cost to the city.
Got a motion and second for approval. Is there any, let's see, Counselor Thomas?
Do we have a cost in
No,
this?
no cost to the city.
Okay. There being no further discussion, it is queued for your electronic vote. The item passes.
Next, and I've got, I see that Columbus Fire EMS is present today, but they are in the process of dealing with the burn building, and they're in need of funds to prepare the soil and burn building and a control room with attached open pavilion to continue their state-required training. They've been before you to talk about the burn building, and you're well aware of the situation with the burn building. They've got some salary savings, and they're asking that we transfer $350,000 of travel savings from the 16 budget to the 17 budget for the burn building, land prep, control room, and open pavilion for state-required training. And so we're asking your approval on this today.
We've got a motion and a second. Did that come from Counselor Huff? Okay, second. And then Counselor Woodson with discussion.
I just had a question. I'm in favor of it, but the funding that did it came from the loss or anything like that? Where did that funding
No,
come from?
this is salary savings.
Oh, salary savings.
Yes.
Okay, I missed that. Okay, thank you.
All right. Discussion is concluded, and the item is queued for voting. It passes.
This next one is, there's no additional cost to the city for our relationship with the University of Georgia Cooperative Extension. I just want to make that clear up front, and because sometimes this gets complicated to explain, but all employees of the University of Georgia who work a total of at least 50% time in one or more regular positions are required by the act of the Georgia General Assembly of the state of Georgia to participate in a retirement program. They have two retirement program options. One is a teacher retirement system, and the other is an optional retirement plan. We've got an employee of the Cooperative Extension. That employee has chosen the optional retirement plan of the two choices. The optional retirement plan is actually, it'll save us a little money because it's at 9.24%, which is less than the teacher retirement at 11.27%. And so it's a small savings to us. And so the bottom line is that this is not going to cost the city any additional money, and we'll save
We've got a motion
a
for
small
approval
amount of money.
from the Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second? All right. There appears to be no discussion, and the item is queued for voting. The item passes.
I've got Fire EMS Strategic Plan Standards of Coverage Update, and we bring this Standard of Coverage Update to you every year for your approval. The strategic plan is used to direct the Columbus Fire EMS for future needs and considerations. It's provided to serve as their Standards of Response Coverage Plan, and so we're asking you to approve their strategic plan for standard of coverage.
We got a motion and second for approval, and there appears to be no discussion. We will cue the item for voting. You may vote. And it passes.
I've got a Night Cities Challenge grant acceptance. It's $6,900 for a project that was submitted by a planning department, one of its employees.
We've got a motion and second for approval. Seeing that there's no discussion, it is queued for voting. And it passes.
I've got the fiscal year 16 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. We get this grant.
We've got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion regarding the FY16 Edward, is it Byrne? Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant? Councilor Thomas.
Mayor, I would like for the city manager to give us a little more on this one, if he would, please.
Yes.
Mr. City Manager, if you would.
Yes, the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant is a grant that comes to us annually, and it's a different amount. It used to be over $100,000. Now it's down to $93,124. All city departments involved in law enforcement, prosecution, or courts are eligible to apply for this grant locally. Once we get the overall allocation locally, they can submit requests for some of this money. And we had several departments to submit, and we are recommending that you approve for the Columbus Police Department, $48,934. They are attempting to purchase 3 of the tag readers, and you know what those are, and those are revenue generating. That's revenue generating equipment that would be attached to the police unit. We are recommending juvenile drug court $14,190 for the obvious work that they do, and then adult drug court $30,000, and that would be the $93,124 that they are using it for their personnel support, and they've got some money that was carried over from prior years, and this money would help them get through the next year or so, and so it's for their personnel expenses. And ankle monitors, a portion of it for ankle monitors in the adult drug court piece, yes. Small amount for ankle monitors.
All right, Councilor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. And yeah, in follow-up, I know years back we talked about any time that a grant is utilized for salaries, that it's flagged by the city manager's office, so that if these grants ever do not, if we find that they're not available, that we are notified that these were grant-funded positions, so
Exactly.
that we can make a better decision in budget time.
And we, each year, we communicate to them that you're using it for personnel. If the money goes away, your personnel will have to go away.
Gotcha.
So they are clear on that.
Thank you.
All right, I believe that concludes discussion. There was a motion and a second, so at this time it is queued for voting. The item passes.
I've got the fiscal year 17 inmate capacity agreement. It's for 528 state inmates to be housed at the Muskogee County Prison. They've got to do these capacity agreements on an annual basis, and so we're asking your approval.
Got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion regarding this item? Seeing that there's none, it is queued for your electronic voting. All right, and it does pass.
I've got two items on purchase. The first, replacement vehicles for the Columbus Police Department. They want to use fuel savings to purchase these two pursuit vehicles.
Got a motion and a second for items A and B. Is there any discussion on either of these? These are a Dodge Charger pursuit vehicle, which is being purchased from the Georgia statewide contract, and B is storing, transporting, and recycle waste tires. There appears to be no discussion on either item. It is queued, both of them are queued for voting. Items A and B pass.
And Madam Mayor, I've got an update. It's a trail system update. Deputy City Manager Pam Hodge is going to do that, but we've got also with us today representatives, and I'll allow Deputy City Manager Pam Hodge to introduce them. PATH and then Community Foundation, but a special thank you to Betsy Covington, who without Betsy's involvement, we probably would not have the relationship that we have with the Knight Foundation. And you heard the $6,900 grant with no match. That's because of the Community Foundation and Betsy Covington and others, but I wanted to just recognize Betsy for her work, and but we've got two PATH representatives here, and I'm going to turn it over to Deputy City Manager Pam Hodge to give the trail update, but to recognize those with PATH who we work so closely with.
And good morning. We just wanted to come back and give a trail update, and we also have PATH that wants to talk about the first connection that we want to make as part of the Riverlink, and this is the connection between the Fall Line Trace and the Riverwalk. So what we have on the screen, which is really hard to see, I'm going to ask Jamal to kind of zoom in so we can kind of show this on the screen, and we've brought some boards too that might make it easier to see, just to outline the trail system that we have in Columbus and what we're trying to move forward and to add additional connections. We've been working with the Community Foundation, the Friends of the Greenway Trail, Ed McBrayer from the PATH Foundation, and Greta DeMaio from Kaizen to continue to develop the trail system in Columbus. And so in the purple, the light purple, is the Fall Line Trace that goes from Salmon Road down to 10th Avenue. We have the Riverwalk that goes from Lake Oliver all the way down to Fort Benning, with a couple missing pieces at Bibb Mill and City Mill, which is part of the T-Splosh project. We also have the Fall Line Trace that's under construction, which goes from Casita Road to Torch Hill Road, and that is under construction as well with the T-Splosh project. So what we're working on is a trail system through the Community Foundation and the Friends of the Greenway Trail to develop the River Link, which will link all the existing trails together and then provide additional trail system within Columbus. The first trail that we're looking at is the connection between the Fall Line Trace and the Riverwalk, which will go from 10th Avenue down 5th Avenue to 14th Street to the Riverwalk, and they'll walk through the specific components of that trail system in just a few minutes. And then as we go forward and funding is identified either from the Friends of the Greenway Trail or from the city, we'll come back to council and develop additional trail links between the trail system that we're developing within the city. So at this time, I want to introduce Betsy. Did you want to do an intro? Betsy Covington with the Community Foundation, who we've been working with for probably a year and a half now on this Greenway Trail. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your kind words, City Manager. Good morning, everybody, and welcome, Councilor Garrett. Hope you are getting used to your chair. We appreciate your service. It is a privilege to be here this morning. Y'all have gotten to hear a number of presentations from me over the last 2 years about connectivity in our city. You know that a number of us came back from a Doable Cities conference in Chicago 2 summers ago, really on fire about Columbus's potential. This is about recreation, yes, but it's not about guys in spandex. It is about connectivity for everybody. It is also about transportation. It's about moms with baby strollers. It's about people who want to age in place in their neighborhoods and have safe, connected ways to get to grocery stores and neighbors' houses and places that they want to be. A number of people in Columbus learned about the PATH Foundation after that trip, and you will hear from Ed McBrayer, who's the executive director of the PATH Foundation, and from Greta DeMayo, who is the principal with Kaizen Collaborative, a group that does design work for PATH. They have been instrumental in the development of the Atlanta Beltline, the Silver Comet Trail that heads across Georgia. Cities, particularly around Georgia, but across the southeast, are clamoring for PATH's attention, and we are very lucky that they have agreed to work with us here in Columbus. They have designed and built over 200 miles of trail. So these guys know what they're doing. They know how to take what we have and make it even better. And I love that they are very experienced in the kinds of public-private partnerships that we're familiar with here in Columbus. They work well with GDOT, they work well with city governments, and they work well with private funders. So it is a pleasure to be here this morning. You'll get an update on their ideas for our Master River Link Trail Plan. And specifically, they'll walk you through the ideas for this first Riverlink connection to link the Fall Line Trace to the Riverwalk. So I just wanted to give you that little bit of background and context, and thank you again for listening. And I will turn it over to Ed and Greta.
Mayor Thomason and council members, it's a pleasure to be here this morning. I represent the PATH Foundation. We're a nonprofit 501c3 agency out of Atlanta, and we started basically having spaghetti dinners and selling T-shirts, trying to build a mile or so of trail in Atlanta. And as of today, we're building our 250th mile of trail. And we've done it with a staff of 4 people, so we're scattered all over the place and working a lot of hours and enjoying every minute of it, I might add. We were asked to come down to Columbus to help with the trails. Y'all have already had a good head start. I was on the Transportation Enhancement advisory panel back in 1992 and 3 when Columbus was awarded money to start your Riverwalk project. So I remember it well, and I was very impressed with the presentation that was made to get your first transportation enhancement grant, and I've been following you closely ever since. Our organization has a two-part mission. One is to build a connected system of trails in metropolitan Atlanta for both commuting and for recreation, and the other is to go out and help other cities around particularly Georgia, but we've helped cities as far away as Baton Rouge and Kauai, Hawaii, and Lexington, Kentucky, generate trail systems in their cities. So we've shared our expertise, and I'm paid for by the donors that we have in Atlanta. So I come to you free. Greta represents Kaizen Collaborative. She's our chief design consultant. She does a great job, and she's worked with me for over 20 years now. She doesn't look old enough to do that, but she is. And we came down to Columbus, and we were inspired by the community that you have down here and the steering committee that was put together, and the willingness of the city to work with us and try to get something on the ground. Even though we plan a lot of trails and conceptualize a lot of trails, we really are about implementation. I don't get involved in many cities that aren't ready to build something. So we're glad we're here today talking about building something. When we came down and started our planning and design effort, what we saw immediately was you had this beautiful Riverwalk, and you had a really nice fall line trace, and it seemed like the city wasn't, those two weren't connected, but then the city wasn't connected to the Riverwalk. It was hard for people a mile or 2 or 3 away from the river to get to the Riverwalk. The other thing we noticed was, even when you're downtown, you couldn't tell where it was. There wasn't a beautiful gateway down to the Riverwalk, particularly for cyclists. As a pedestrian, you can weave your way down there, but there wasn't. I came down and rode with Mayor Tomlinson on one of her Tuesday rides, and people were asking me, well, where's the Riverwalk? And of course, if you walk far enough west, you see it, but there's not a gateway to it. So what Greta and I did is we spent some time down here and realized the best service we could perform for you would be to try to connect the whole city down to the Riverwalk that you already have. So we came up with the name RiverLink, and we came up with the logos for you, and we think we've got a good branding system for your whole trail network. And we're very excited that a 9-mile long trail and a 14-mile long trail, the first thing that essential to get done, in our opinion, is to give you a 25 plus or minus mile trail that's continuous. I think that's the first service we can perform for you. If we can encourage you to do that and help you do that, then I think you'll be off and running and have the makings of a great trail system. So we've come up with a map here that basically connects is the trunk line system, if you will, of a trail network that will connect everybody to the river. So I assume this clicker works. Great. So close up the fall line trace to the Riverwalk, you'll see there. We are masters at retrofitting a developed area of a city with a trail system. That's sort of what we do on a regular basis. And so this was a challenge, but we think it's something that you'll be proud to implement. So when you're coming down the fall line trace toward downtown Columbus, the first major obstacle you come to is 10th here, which this little crossing, everybody I think speeds up to go through it rather than slows down. So as a cyclist or a pedestrian or somebody pushing a baby carriage or walking a dog, I wouldn't even be encouraged to cross there. So we came up, we want to enhance that crossing and make it really stand out. Use some of the new NACTO standards for striping, put a full-blown hawk signal there that's a red light for pedestrians and for cyclists. It stops traffic, and enhance the median, everything, so that it's a very nice crossing, and it encourages you to continue down the Fall Line Trace toward the Riverwalk.
Just for a reference, this is the medical center, just, I guess,
Yeah.
Just make sure everybody knows where we're starting.
Yeah, we start right at the what there would be the southwest end of the Fall Line Trace, I believe. There is the abandoned rail corridor continues across. This is the hospital down here in the lower left-hand part of your picture there, and you'll see the former railroad prominently across the northern, through the parking lot, and then over to Linwood. And that right-of-way there is owned by the city, and we propose to build the continuation of the Fall Line Trace across on the railroad over to Linwood. So like this. Then Linwood, this is one of those times when you need us the most. We're used to doing this, taking existing right-of-way, public right-of-way, and enhancing it so it's good for pedestrians and bicycles. So this is what we're proposing to do. There's no travel lanes lost here. We are taking space out of the street, but there's plenty of width in the street. And putting the trail in, actually moving the bus stop out and making it what we call a floating bus stop, and have the trail go behind the bus stop, and that way it wouldn't interfere. The people getting on the bus wouldn't be in conflict with the trail. So it would continue along beside the cemetery. Might add that we have been had a lot of contact with all of the stakeholders along this route, and we feel like we have the general approval from everyone based on the concessions we made and the design that we have changed and made compatible with everyone's wishes. And this is along Linwood here, crossing over the railroad track and going down 6th. We are altering the right-of-way of Linwood between 5th and 6th so that there's room for the trail. Right now it's a one-way street with multiple lanes. We are providing still 2 lanes so that there's a right and left out of Linwood onto 5th, but we're making a nice median and room for the trail, safe passage, so that right now cyclists, a lot of them come down Linwood and turn and go south on 6th, which is a very dangerous conflict zone because a lot of motorists keep going on Linwood down to 5th. So we are eliminating that conflict zone by taking the cyclists and the pedestrians down to 5th and then having them travel along 5th southbound. And this is the area along 5th that right now is not, is kind of unsightly really. It's kind of an abandoned parking lot, and it's not very well maintained. And we're proposing to do this to it and make it kind of beautify it and try to put a tree canopy through there. We've negotiated a landscape easement with the property owner so that we'll be able to put landscaping on both sides of the trail and take the trail where basically the existing sidewalk is. So this will be a very enhanced corridor right through here. So that's it in plan view. Then we turn and go westbound on 14th Street like this. We're trying to, you understand, we're trying to make this not necessarily with the spandex cyclists, as y'all call them, in mind, but with the general public in mind and tourists in mind and people that would normally turn around on the Fall Line Trace and go back, and rather than deal with traffic and that type of thing. We're trying to give them a real nice facility to get them down to the Riverwalk and all the venue downtown. So this is along 14th going toward the recently completed project down by the river, and we're proposing to do this to it. So we will take a little space out of the road and move the curb out and give room for a full-blown trail that any family would be proud to and feel safe on, going between the Riverwalk and the Fall Line Trace. So it goes sort of like this. And we've still got some permits to get with GDOT. We work with GDOT on a regular basis. PATH has been on the cover of their Milepost magazine 3 times already, so we're in like Flynn with them, so we can help the city get the permits necessary to get across Veterans and they go along 14th there. So these are just shots showing the general makeout, and that's back to the overall. That was it. Anything you want to add?
No, if we have any questions, I don't know if that's
Yeah, I'd be happy
appropriate,
to
but.
answer questions.
All right, well, we've got questions. We've got Counselor Huff.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back to the city of Columbus. Thank you for all your work. I was very impressed when Bessie Covington invited me. I can't remember the date, last year sometime, I guess. And we had the meeting and the presentation. And it was very enlightening for me to know what was really going on. And the city manager has talked to me several times now to put the brakes on me, to slow me down a little bit, so that we can try and tie a few things together, because we have the T-SPLOST program project coming up. And he's mentioned to me that we'll be able to look at tying some of that in with the Martin Luther King piece to
Right.
try to get it done. So I guess my question this morning is, will Martin Luther King piece be second after this?
It will be as far as we're
Because
concerned.
We're
but
coming,
that's-
we're coming with the project, I guess, starts later this year, next year, and then I guess we complete out about 2018, 19? 18.
At this time, we haven't put the plan together of how the links would be staged, but MLK is one of the links, and the committee had discussed that being the next link, but there would be funding that needs to be identified for that to
Okay.
happen.
Because
And we're working, Deputy City Manager Hodge is working really hard to identify state funding.
Okay.
So we're working on that.
Okay, because you had mentioned to me that we could better utilize our paving money for Martin Luther King.
Right,
in that
and
project.
that funding is still set aside, the $850,000 for the MLK project, so we're
Okay.
trying to match that in order to do additional work to add the trail to that project.
Okay, okay. I just put my request in to be next.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we have Counselor Garrett.
Thank y'all for coming today. I had more of a comment. Just Councilor Huff and I attended a presentation at the Chamber last night, and one of the things they said we really need to focus on was manufacturing in the high-tech job sector. And I attended a presentation with Ms. Covington earlier this year, and one of the things that they brought up, which I think is very important, it's got a twofold effect. One is obviously I guess it hits both ends of the socioeconomic spectrum. One, if we have more transportation ability, particularly where Councilor Huff was talking about, it allows people to get to work that don't have, motor vehicle transportation. But more importantly for our tax dollars, from what I understand from the presentation, this is integral to recruiting technology companies here. They want a very bike-friendly city, so I see this as a very important investment. They'll pay long-term dividends, but I didn't really have a question for you. I just wanted to make that comment to my other councilors. Just commend you all for what you all have done.
Great, thank you. Let's see, Counselor Woodson.
Thank you very much to Betsy and to Pat. I appreciate it. I like the arts and the walks and trail. I had a question. I just came from New York, and I took a lot of pictures to come back. And I know that we have a lot of abandoned rail trails, And I'm just, and I want to share them with you later. I was very intrigued, very amazed, because they took areas, and I showed Gary where the railroads are. Instead of pulling them out, what they did was planted trees and flowers, and it's called the Highland Garden. And what they did was they took the rails and put like sidewalks almost like it, and you can walk it. They have where they can have lazy chairs where you can lay and read a book, and then you can see over the city because it's on the rails. And then what they did underneath the rails, they actually had fine restaurants, I mean, very elegant, unique restaurants underneath the trails of the railroad. And it's funny you're doing this presentation because I took all these pictures with the intent to come back and talk to our engineering and to others and say, why can't we do this? And then I'm always talking about South Lumpkin Road. It's congestion, but it has life, and it's been, I would say, dying. You know, it needs some life because you have the Infantry Museum, you have Westville coming, and it needs some. So I took some pictures, and I'd love to share them with you. They were so innovative ways to take a small area and make it beautiful. And people felt safe. And this is in New York, near the Hudson River. I mean, you had homeless hanging around too, but people felt safe. There were families with strollers, there were people reading books. It was just amazing to me how they took a rail that was abandoned and made it a beautiful walking, beautiful space. And I like to see if, I know not now, but maybe in the future with the city and y'all looking at some of that on some of our abandoned railroads while we're going through connecting the past. Because it was, I mean, my girlfriend kept saying, we gotta go, Mimi, we gotta go. And I didn't want to go. It was so beautiful and calm. So I like to share those with Betsy or staff or someone so we can have a conversation later.
It's so funny because Betsy just came back from seeing the High Line too.
Oh,
And it does set the bar very high
Yes.
when it comes to a trail, and it is a favorite of ours too. so.
Yeah, but what I liked about it that was so unique is that they used vegetarians, you know, they used lots of plants. And the plants seemed to make you feel more relaxed. I mean, you didn't even notice at times that you were on a railroad, an abandoned railroad. It was just amazing. And as you're talking, and I see these things, and I see the development of the sidewalk. I actually went to see, I guess y'all showed a presentation of 42nd, I think was where they took the sidewalk and closed it up and made it a sitting area. I even walked through there, I even sat there, and I even, they also done it on a busy way, you know how you divide up the roads, coming this way and that way, curve. They actually set a little area there where people can just sit and watch the traffic. And I was amazed how they put the two little trees, like you did with the plants there. They put a bench, and I was amazed how people felt comfortable in the middle of traffic, but yet they felt good. And it was just very inspiring.
See, what I think is going to happen is when we connect the Fall Line Trace to your Riverwalk, I mean, your Riverwalk, I mean,
It's amazing.
It's such high-quality materials and was so well thought out and has such a vista that if you embrace it a little bit more as far as enforcing some of the things, we've heard a lot of comments from cyclists and pedestrians that people didn't follow any rules. There really wasn't any enforcement present to try to encourage people to stay to the right and for bicyclists to yield to pedestrians. But if you kind of start managing the trail a little bit better and just do a few things to make the whole thing feel like a continuous ribbon, I think your trail can ultimately be just as impressive as what you saw in a different way, because you've got the river and you've got all the scenery and you've got the open space, and you've got it'll be kind of fun to come through the urban part of that, connecting the neighborhoods to the urban part to the river. I think is going to be an experience that'll rival what you saw up there.
And I agree with you, because before our trip, when the way Uptown has done the area where the skyline is and where you have that little waterfall, which is very small, it's a children's waterfall, but they made an amazing playground that was there too, so that when it connects, it really going to bring the community and the family there, because to me that's a quiet little secret. Everyone, like when you talk to people, sometimes they say, where is that at? Is that here? I said, yes, go to the end of the Riverwalk, and it's amazing what they've done. But thank you, I don't want to take a lot of time. I'm just all excited, and I love that atmosphere, and I was in the military, and I lived in Germany for 6 years, so I'm used to that, eating out on the restaurants, on the sidewalk, and the trees, and laying around reading a book and playing Frisbee. So I'm really excited of what y'all bringing, and hopefully we can do some more. Thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing that.
All right. Counselor Thomas.
Can you give us any kind of a timeline that we're looking at to get started on this and to get it?
Yes, ma'am, I certainly can. We were, Greta and I also designed and built the trail that goes all the way around Carrollton, and the trail summit, the statewide trail summit was there in April this year, where they announced that Columbus would be the host city for the 2017 Trail Summit, which is in April. So your time frame is that, assuming we don't run into any roadblocks, we will have the trail completely finished by the 1st of April of next year.
Great.
Yes, and I'd like for Deputy City Manager Hodge to speak to that as well.
Just to kind of get a little more specific about our timeline, what we're looking at is next week we would bring back a preliminary project agreement with PATH to move forward with this section of the River Link. We have a public meeting scheduled for June 28th at 6 o'clock from 6 to 8 at the Annex Conference Room to get input from the public and let them review this section of the Riverwalk as well as the overall plan for all of the connections. And then we'll put out this section to bid. We did receive the plans from Greta, and at no expense to the city. So the design has been completed at no expense to the city, and so we'll put that bid out and get it processed as quickly as we can so that we can move forward to try to meet the timeline of this summit that's coming up in April.
Great, thank you.
And,
Go ahead. Mr. City Manager. There's no more?
okay.
No more
Well,
questions.
and let me just say, I had the opportunity to travel with Councilor Davis, Glenn Davis, and Ken Henson, who has an interest in all of this as well, up to Carrollton to see firsthand some of the work of Ed McBrayer and his nonprofit organization. And we were all just blown away with what they've done in and around the city of Carrollton with these 12-foot wide concrete pathways, as you saw the example in the presentation, and they're absolutely beautiful. I mean, once this first one when we are able to complete this first link, I think it's just going to give Columbus a taste of what we can do throughout this community, and they're going to be, like you, Councilor Huff, ready for us to get started in areas in your particular districts. But this will just do wonders for Martin Luther King Boulevard, and I know you've seen some of the renderings that they've done, and you were excited about it when you saw them. So we're going to work this and move it forward, and I think we're going to be excited. And I also want to mention that I'm going to be on a panel at the Georgia Municipal Association with Ed McBrayer down in Savannah the end of this month. And a lot of people, there are a lot of eyes on Columbus. I'm going to be on 4 different panels at GMA related to what's going on in Columbus, Georgia with recreation, bikeways and pathways. I turned down 2. And so, yeah, I can't go down there for 3 days and be on that many panels, and I'm asking staff to prepare this for me and do this with me. And but a lot of people across this state, there are 535 cities in Georgia, and there will be 5,000 people down at GMA. But I've been asked to be on 6 different panels. And so there's a lot of interest in Columbus, and I just wanted to make you aware of that. While sometimes at home we can't appreciate all the amenities and the things that we have, but other people outside of Columbus are watching, and they're visiting, and they're asking questions, and they want you to explain. And so I just wanted to share that with you. But I am going to be on that panel with Ed down in Savannah.
Councilor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. This seems very exciting, but I would like to ask, I haven't heard anything about projecting out cost of maintenance and that kind of thing. Could you provide council, I think you've mentioned T-Splosh earlier, but could you provide council sometime in the near future, a cost analyst, maybe a 10-year projection?
Sure.
Once it's built out, what our budget would be impacted by?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
And in some cases, it will, these 12-foot wide pathways will help us because we're eliminating some mowing that we have to do. And of course, that concrete has a long life, but we will eliminate having to go out and mow some of the rights of way here in our city. So, but we'll bring that back to you.
All right. Well, it looks like there are no questions on that subject.
That concludes my agenda.
Great. All right. Thank you. We'll move on then to, let's see, we have Councilor Huff.
Yes, Mr. City Manager, got a text message. If you could check 925 Benning Drive. A citizen said they had called 3 times to try and get the grass cut. It's the house next door to her, 925 Benning Drive. It's a vacant lot. If you check that for me, thank you.
We will.
All right. Let's see. And also, Mr. City Manager, do check about the calls. I hate to hear that a citizen's called multiple times. And, sometimes they may have called someone else. We just need to make sure 311's working, and maybe you can report back on
We will.
that. Okay. Let's see. We have Councilor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and I wanted to go back to the increase in allocation for the burn building and where those funds came from. And I think I'm all in favor of it. I think it's a great idea. But I'd like to have some way, if we have departments who are shifting funds from whether they're salary savings or some other budgetary savings, have that earmarked for discussion when we evaluate the FY18 budget. I know none of our folks are doing this, but I just want to make sure that the public understands that we're not padding budgets so that we can reallocate funds and redirect them to other areas. So, and it may be a great time, as a matter of fact, sometime over the next 30, 60 days to get another list of funded but vacant positions, just so we know what's out there right now. I think in light of some of the innovative, and what the mayor did in trying to address with the police chief, some recruitment and retention efforts, I think was a very, very smart move. But I just want to make sure we don't have too many of these instances.
And I absolutely agree that we need to come back to you with that, and we need to tell you that there were salary savings in these various departments and why they had salary savings. Because, I mean, I think that should be used as a tool for you going forward to make budget decisions.
Agreed. And again, I don't think any of our department heads or elected officials have utilized that in a less than appropriate manner, but I just think for the public's purview, we need to be very transparent about where those are coming from. Sure.
Okay. All right. We have the Mayor Pro Tem.
Also, when you come back on the salary savings, I know once before we looked at those positions that had been vacant more than a year, and whether or not they were actually needed to continue on in those departments.
Sure.
So we need to look at that again, too.
Yes.
Sure.
I believe, and make sure that Pam does, I think we eliminated all general government positions and saved $1.3 million into FY 14 and 15. It's just a number I recall from some of the budget letters that had been vacant for a period of time. And I think we did leave, of course, public safety, some different, concerns there. But I think to break that down and show where we have eliminated positions, because like I said, the number I remember is 1.3 million over 2 or 3 years were eliminated from general government positions, eliminating any vacant positions that had not been filled over a period of time.
Sure.
So, thank you.
And Mr. Budget Chair,
Yes.
we need to have some possible discussions on preparing for the budget for next year. So we can get some clear understandings up front when everything is due, and if it's not there on time, what happens? And also, if we're gonna ever start building up our reserve at some point, and we've done this before, we told everybody up front, don't expect a budget increase in your dollar allowance for next year. That money is going to build up the reserves, and we've got to get back to building up those reserves. Because when we need some capital improvement projects done, we have to keep putting them off. And at some point, we've got to do them. We got to stop putting them off and do them. And I don't want us to get into the rut of, like we are with the trash trucks now. So we need to start seriously thinking about that.
Anything else?
Mayor Miller, that's all that I
Okay.
have.
All right, and we'll turn it over to the clerk then.
Madam Mayor, members of council, on the clerk's agenda, first item I have is a letter of resignation from Mr. Chong resigning from Hospital Authority needs to be received.
Got a motion and second that we receive with regrets. All those in favor, please state aye.
Then we have minutes of various boards.
Got a motion and second that the minutes be received. All those in favor, please state aye.
And I have an add-on resolution, a resolution to cancel the July 5th, 2016 proclamation session.
Got a motion and second for approval. All those in favor, please state aye. Yes, Councilor Huff.
Since we're moving the proclamation meeting, I'd like to request, we have one young lady that's Assistant Principal of the Year in Columbus, and one for Public Store Manager on Macon Road. If we could move that to the June 28th meeting at 5:30.
Councilor
We
Huff.
don't, we're not going to meet for Tuesday?
We meet
Next-
next Tuesday.
Well, next Tuesday.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, just get us the information. Is it a proclamation or resolution?
Proclamations.
Yeah, if you'll just get that to Judy Tucker, and then we'll get the proclamation in and make sure it's on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
It'll be on the mayor's agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right.
On our board appointments, on the Civic Center Advisory Board, Mr. Walter Lewis, Councilor Barnes is working on a replacement for that District 1 nominee. Councilor Woodson also is working for District 7. Councilor Thomas, do you have someone for District 9 yet?
We have Councilor Henderson.
Well, I tried to catch you before we moved on. I was going to raise the question. We have an open date in July on the 19th. I don't know if we have a number of folks in order to keep them from getting onto the evening meeting on the, what would that be, the 26th?
I'll check. I don't think we have any proclamations
Okay.
set. If it's just the one, it'll be like today and probably shouldn't take very long. If for some reason they're piling up, we'll do something alternative.
Okay.
2, 3. Okay, well, if you'll get them into Judy Tucker as soon as possible so we can see how many they are, how long it'll take, and then we'll sort of moderate we'll let y'all know right away. If anybody else has one, get it into Judy so she can count them up. Thanks. All right, Tiny.
On our Golf Course Authority, we have...
We've got a motion and...
Excuse me.
Hold on. What do we got? Where are we?
We have two nominees for Ms. Rudine Nelson's seat, who is not eligible to succeed herself. And those two nominees are Ms. Stephanie Layor and Mr. Ricky Wright. We want to take a vote. Councilor Allen? We can.
Yeah.
All right, we'll bring this back on next week at our next meeting. On our Circle Commission, we still need someone for Mr. Augusto's seat, whose seat was declared vacant. Also, for our Community Development Advisory Council, Council Davis is aware that Mr. Hayes is not eligible. For our District 9, Colin Martin does not want to serve again, so we'll need another nominee for that seat. And the Recreation Advisory Board, Councilor Woodson, we still need someone for your District 7 seat. And that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
All right. Well, that concludes our agenda. We've got Councilor Huff.
Yes, just one last request to make sure I have it right. You said next week, June 21st at 5:30 or 9?
It's at 5:30 next week.
5:30. Okay, thank you.
All right. We will we will meet again on Tuesday at 5:30. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please state aye. All right, we're adjourned.